That night, the house shattered. My mother's voice cut through the air like a blade. My wife's cry trembled with fury and pain. My daughter slammed her door so hard the glass rattled in its frame. And I stood in the hallway, paralyzed, my chest tight, my hands frozen at my sides. I wanted to be in two places at once, to hold them all together, to stop the breaking. But a man cannot be two men forever. My name is Levi Baker. I'm 45 years old, a construction engineer. I've built bridges that carry thousands of lives across rivers, towers that stand against the wind, homes that shelter strangers. I've trusted steel and concrete to hold strong, and yet I cannot hold my own house together. My mother is Arabella, 70 years old, a widow. Her body has grown frail, but her will has only hardened. She raised me alone after my father passed, poured every ounce of her strength into me. Her love is fierce, her pride is sharp, but her hands, they cling too tightly even now. To her, I am not 45. I am still her only boy. My wife is Rowan, 42, independent, strong-willed. She built her own path before I entered her life, and when we married, she believed we were equals. She gave me Clara, she gave me Ethan, she gave me a new world. But she expects me to stand beside her, not behind my mother, and that expectation has turned into demand. And then there are my children. Clara, 16, once my little girl who ran to me with open arms. Now she slams her bedroom door in my face. Every silence, every glare tells me she sees me as weak. Ethan, 10 years old, my quiet boy. He doesn't yell, he doesn't run, he just listens. Absorbs. He hides behind his toys, but I see the questions in his eyes, questions I cannot answer. The truth is, I am torn in two. A loyal son, a failing husband, a father who is watching his children drown in the war between the women he loves most. The house is no longer a home. Every dinner turns into a battlefield. My mother complains about the food. Too bland, too rushed, not how a real wife should cook. My wife bites back. If you don't like it, maybe you should make it yourself. And me? I sit in the middle, forcing a smile, whispering, "Please, not tonight." But my words fall flat. Clara pushes her chair back. Ethan keeps his head down. The sound of forks on plates is louder than any laughter. I try to justify it. I tell myself, it's just words. Just small fires. I think if I keep silent, they will burn out. But silence is not water. Silence is oil. And every day, I pour more into the flames. My mother corners me when Rowan leaves the room. "Levi, you belong to me. I carried you. I raised you. Do not forget who stood by you all these years," Rowan whispers at night when we lie in bed. "Levi, you are not her little boy anymore. You are my husband. You are their father. You can't have it both ways. You need to choose." And me? I lie between them, my body here, my mind there, my loyalty ripped apart. I want to believe I am strong enough to carry both, but every day the weight grows heavier. My mother clings harder, my wife pulls further away, my daughter rebels louder, my son grows quieter, and I shrink into silence. That night when the house shattered, it was not the beginning. It was only the moment I could no longer look away. The moment I realized, silence had already made me complicit. Dinner should have been a moment of rest, but in my house, dinner had turned into a trial. The table was no longer a place for warmth, but for judgment and silence. That evening, Rowan spent nearly 2 hours in the kitchen. I could hear the soft clatter of pans, the hiss of oil, the quiet way she hummed as she moved. She tried, always, for me, for peace. She knew nothing would be enough to satisfy my mother, but still, she tried. When she finally placed the plates on the table, I saw the effort in her eyes. The food looked perfect, but perfection doesn't matter when someone is waiting to find fault. My mother leaned over her plate, inspecting the chicken with a critical eye. She pressed the fork down once, twice, then shook her head. "This is dry," she said, her voice heavy with disapproval. "You cooked it too quickly. In my day, we let the meat rest. We took time. Meals meant something. This is just rushed, empty." Rowan's hand paused on her lap. I saw her lips tremble before she forced a quiet smile. I'll try harder next time. But my mother wasn't finished. She tapped her fork against the edge of the plate. And the soup? Where is the flavor? No herbs, no soul. Food should carry tradition, not taste like water. I swallowed hard. Mom, it's fine. Really, let's just... She cut me off with a wave of her hand. You don't notice, Levi, because you've grown used to less. A man should not lower his standards. A wife should never let him. Rowan sat still, her face calm, but her knuckles whitened around her napkin. She didn't speak. For me, I knew. She didn't want another fight in front of the children, but my mother's eyes turned to Clara. And you. Look at you. That sweater. Do you think this is proper? You look like you're ready for a party in the street, not dinner with your family. Clara's eyes narrowed. It's just a sweater. Arabella shook her head. When I was 16, we knew how to dress like young ladies. Respectful, modest, not careless. I glanced at Rowan, hoping she would intervene. She met Clara's gaze with soft eyes, silently begging her to stay calm. But Clara's face hardened. She shoved her chair back, the sound screeching across the floor. I'm done, she snapped. I can't sit through this every night. She stormed away, stomping up the stairs. A door slammed shut so hard the walls trembled. Ethan flinched. His fork slipped from his hand. Clattering against the plate, he bent his head lower, rushing bites of food into his mouth, trying to disappear. I laughed weakly, desperate to patch the air. It's just dinner. Come on, let's not... But the silence was heavier than laughter could ever fill. Rowan lowered her gaze to her plate, her lips pressed tight. My mother sniffed, unimpressed, and muttered, Children lose respect when mothers don't set the right example. That's the truth. Rowan's hand shook slightly, but she said nothing. She carried her plate to the sink, her back straight, her face pale. She endured. For me. Always for me. I sat there, watching her walk away, and hated myself for letting it happen. The dinner table was supposed to bring us together, but lately, it was only a battlefield, and I was no general, only a soldier torn by two flags. Morning should have been quiet, sunlight through the curtains, the smell of coffee, the sound of pages turning. That's what I wanted, what I needed. But mornings in my house had become battlegrounds long before I was willing to admit it. That day, I heard it before I even entered the kitchen. My mother's voice, sharp, trembling with anger. You only think about yourself, she spat. You don't care for this house. You don't care for Levi. He is my son, not your puppet to control. I froze in the hallway. My heart sank, heavy and familiar. Rowan stood by the counter, holding a cup of coffee, her shoulders stiff. She turned, her eyes locked on my mother, and for once she didn't lower them. Your son, she said slowly, her voice tight with years of swallowed words, is my husband. We have our own family. You can't keep forcing your will into every corner of this house. Her tone was steady, but her hands trembled around the mug. She wasn't just defending herself, she was defending us. My mother's face twisted. Family? What family? A wife who cannot keep peace, children who run wild, a husband torn in two. This is what you call family? No, you are tearing him away from me. I stepped forward, raising my hands. Stop, please. This isn't... But they both turned on me, voices colliding. She doesn't respect me, Levi. He never stands up for me, Arabella. The words ricocheted around the room. I tried to speak, but they drowned me out. My throat burned with words I couldn't form. Then Clara's voice cut through. She stood in the doorway, her hair messy, her face pale with anger. Why? Why do you do this every day? Why does this house feel like hell? The silence that followed was louder than the shouting. Clara's eyes shimmered, but she didn't cry. She just slammed her hand against the doorframe, turned, and stomped upstairs. A second later, bang! The sound of her door slamming shut shook through my chest. Ethan peeked out from behind the hall, clutching his toy car, his eyes wide. He didn't speak. He just stared at me, as if asking me to fix it, as if I could. I stood there, caught between the two women who had built and broken me. My wife, shaking with fury and exhaustion. My mother, breathing hard, her pride unbroken. And my daughter, gone behind her locked door, too young to carry so much rage. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just between mother and wife anymore. The war had reached my children. And it was my silence that opened the door. It was evening when the house fell silent, a silence too deep, too heavy, the kind that presses against your skin. I knew before I even saw the note. Something was wrong. On the dining table, beneath the soft light of the lamp, there was a folded piece of paper. My hands trembled as I opened it, one line written in Clara's rushed, angry hand. "I can't take this anymore. I'm staying at a friend's." My heart stopped. The room tilted. I read it once, twice, hoping the words would shift into something else, but they didn't. "Rowan!" I called out, my voice louder than I intended. She came rushing from the kitchen, drying her hands on a towel. The moment she saw my face, she froze. "What is it? What's wrong?" I held out the note. She snatched it, her eyes scanning the words, her lips parted. A sound left her throat, half gasp, half sob. "She's gone? Levi, she left?" Her voice broke. "Our daughter left this house?" Before I could answer, another voice cut across the room. My mother, calm, cold, almost triumphant in its sharpness. "She'll be back," Arabella said. "Don't go chasing after her. This is what happens when a child grows up with no discipline. She's spoiled, and we all know who taught her that." Rowan spun around, her face flushed red. "Don't you dare!" Her voice trembled with rage. "Don't you dare blame this on me. Clara is falling apart because of you, because every night, every meal, every breath in this house turns into a war." My mother slammed her cane on the floor. "Don't twist this. I raised Levi better than that. I know what respect looks like. That girl needs correction, not coddling." Rowan stepped closer, her voice raw. "Correction? You've been crushing her, crippling her spirit. And Levi," she turned to me, tears burning in her eyes. "Levi just lets it happen. He stands there, frozen, while you tear his family apart." I tried to speak, tried to steady my voice. "I'll go find her. Rowan, please, I'll bring her home." But she screamed, cutting me down with words sharper than any knife. "You think that's enough? You think driving around the block makes you a father again? No. You've let this happen. Every silence, every time you said nothing, this is what it's led to." My mother's voice rose again, shaking the walls. "A daughter who runs away is proof of a weak mother. That's the truth. Stop hiding from it." Rowan's hands balled into fists. "And what about a grandmother who poisons her own house? Who drives a wedge between a man and his wife, between a father and his children?" She turned back to me, her voice breaking. "Levi, choose. Say something, please." But my mouth stayed shut. My throat burned, words clawing to get out, but they died before reaching the air. Rowan's sob shattered me. She clutched the note to her chest, shaking her head. "I don't even know if Clara wants to come back." I grabbed my keys, unable to face Rowan's tears, my mother's hard stare, or Ethan clutching his toy car in fear. The night swallowed me as I stepped outside. The engine roared. My hands shook on the wheel. Headlights cut across empty streets, house after house that wasn't hers. I searched for Clara, red hair, a familiar shape, anything. But the road stretched on, silent and merciless, and inside me, a voice whispered, I was meant to protect them. Yet all I did was watch the cracks widen. I drove through the dark, praying she was safe, knowing in my heart I had already begun to lose her. It was late afternoon. The light outside was soft, slanting through the blinds. Inside, the house carried its usual tension, every word edged, every silence heavier than it should have been. Rowan was in the kitchen, tidying up, moving quietly the way she always did when my mother was near. Then I heard it. The deliberate clatter of a cup falling, a splash, the sound of water spilling across the floor. I stepped into the doorway just as my mother's voice rang out, sharp, commanding. "Rowan, clean that up. Women in this house should know how to keep it in order." My wife froze. Her hand tightened on the dish towel she held. I saw her chest rise and fall, her breath quick, but she didn't speak back. She simply knelt, pressing the towel to the spreading water. I wanted to move, to say something, to stop it. But before I could, her foot slid, the towel slipped, and in a heartbeat, Rowan's body hit the tile with a sickening thud. She cried out, clutching her stomach, her face twisted in pain, her eyes wide with terror. Rowan! My voice tore from my throat. I dropped to my knees, lifting her into my arms. Her body trembled against me, every muscle tight. She whispered through clenched teeth, "My belly. Levi, oh God!" Something inside me snapped. I spun on my mother, my voice raw and shaking. "Are you happy now? You nearly killed my wife. You nearly killed our child." My mother's eyes widened, startled by the force in my voice. For a moment she looked smaller, older, almost frail, but then her face hardened. "It was an accident," she insisted, her voice cold. "Don't you dare blame me for her clumsiness." "Clumsiness!" I roared. "She slipped because you made her kneel on that wet floor. You gave the order. You always give the orders. And now look!" Rowan groaned softly in my arms, her fingers still pressed to her stomach. I carried her to the chair, my heart hammering so hard I thought my chest would break. Ethan peeked around the corner, his eyes wide with fear. Clara had come down the stairs, her face pale. Both of them stood frozen, watching. "Mom," I said, my voice lower now but shaking with fury. "This ends here. Do you hear me? This ends now." Arabella stood still, her cane trembling in her hand. Her lips parted, but no words came. For the first time, I saw doubt flicker across her face. Yet even then, she whispered, stubborn, almost to herself. "It was just water, but I knew better. It wasn't water. It was a line she had crossed, a line I could no longer ignore. That was the first time I truly lost control with her. The first time I felt the fire of rage burn through years of silence, and I knew, deep inside, that nothing would ever be the same again. I still remember the weight of that binder in my hands, months of work, late nights, endless revisions, every ounce of patience I had left poured into those pages. The overpass project was more than a job. It was my proof that I was still worth something, that I could build not only bridges of steel, but maybe rebuild this family. I laid it carefully on the dining table, smoothing the pages with pride. For once I felt steady. For once, I thought maybe things could turn. The phone rang. I stepped into the hallway. 5 minutes, no more. Just enough to answer, to nod, to confirm tomorrow's meeting. When I came back, the smell of hot tea lingered in the air. And then I saw it. The binder was soaked, pages curling, ink bleeding into nothing. My work dissolved before my eyes, and my mother stood over it. Her hand still clutched the cup, her lips pressed thin. My voice cracked as I staggered forward. "Mom, what did you do?" Her gaze was cold, steady. "If you put these papers above your wife, above this house, above me, then what am I to you? Do you still remember who raised you? Who gave you everything?" I gripped the pages, desperate, tearing them apart in my trembling hands. You ruined it. This is my career, my future." "Do you even understand what you've done? It's just paper," she snapped. "Work comes and goes, but a mother is forever." My chest burned, my voice rose. "Just paper? Do you know how many nights I bled into these pages? How many times I came home late, hoping to make something better for this family? For my children? For you?" Her chin lifted. "No project, no job, no wife will ever matter more than me. You are my son, and you owe me that loyalty." The words broke something inside me. Years of silence, years of bowing, years of swallowing back anger. It all came out at once. "No!" I roared. My hands slammed against the table, rattling the ruined binder. "I am not just your son anymore. I am a husband, a father, and I am done letting you destroy everything in this house because you cannot let go." Her eyes widened, her cane shaking in her grip. "You would speak to me like this? To your mother?" "Yes," I spat, my voice shaking, tears burning down my face. "Because you crossed the line. You've hurt Rowan. You've crushed Clara. You've frightened Ethan. And now, you've taken the only thing I had left, my work, my pride. Do you want me hollow? Do you want me broken? Is that what you've wanted all along?" She flinched. For the first time, she looked smaller, her voice trembling. "I only wanted you to remember me, not to leave me behind." But the fire inside me didn't let me stop. "Remember you? I can't forget you. Every breath in this house carries your shadow. but I will not let you ruin me anymore. I won't." The room was silent but for Rowan's soft gasp from the doorway. Clara stood on the stairs, pale, her arms folded tight across her chest. Ethan hid behind the banister, his toy car clutched to his chest. All of them had heard, all of them had seen. And me? I stood shaking, chest heaving, voice hoarse from the scream I had buried for 45 years. For the first time in my life, I had shouted back at my mother, and there was no taking it back. Night fell heavy that day. The house was thick with silence, but it wasn't peace. It was the silence before a storm. Every door closed, every step muffled, every breath carrying the weight of what had been said and done. I knew it couldn't hold. Something had to break, and it did. Rowan stood in the living room, her arms crossed, her face pale with exhaustion. My mother sat opposite her, her cane tapping the floor, her eyes wet but fierce. I stood between them, but I wasn't a wall anymore. I was a fault line, trembling under the pressure. Then Rowan's voice cracked the silence. "Levi, you have to choose. Either your mother or your family. You can't keep us both this way, not anymore." Her words struck like lightning. My stomach clenched, my chest hollowed. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her chest. Her voice broke into sobs. "Choose? He cannot choose. I am his mother. I gave him life. If he abandons me, who will I have? No one. Nothing. If you make him leave me, you'll kill me." I tried to breathe, but before I could, Clara's voice cut down from upstairs, shaking the walls. "Stop it. Both of you. This house is hell. You think it's about you too, about Grandma, about Mom. But what about us? What about me? What about Ethan? You don't care what this is doing to us." Her words pierced me deeper than any blade. Ethan burst into tears at the bottom of the stairs, his small body shaking. "I hate this house. I hate it. I just want it to stop." That was the moment my silence died. The fire in my chest erupted, my voice roaring louder than it ever had in my life. "Enough!" I shouted, my throat raw. "Enough!" Both women froze. Clara stopped mid-breath, eyes wide. Ethan sobbed quieter, watching me. I turned to my mother first, my hands shaking. "Mom, I love you. I always will. I won't abandon you. But you cannot keep tearing this family apart. You cannot keep breaking my wife, hurting my children, destroying everything I've tried to hold together. You are my mother, but I am a husband now. I am a father, and I have to protect them, even from you." Her tears fell, but she said nothing. Her cane trembled in her grip. Then I turned to Rowan. My voice softened, but it carried the weight of my promise. "And you won't stand alone anymore, not against her, not against anyone. I should have spoken long ago, but I was a coward. I let my silence do the damage. No more. I will set the boundaries. I will be the one to draw the line." Rowan's eyes glistened. For the first time in months, she looked at me not with anger, but with something close to hope. I took a breath, steadying myself, then spoke the decision that had already been written in my bones. "Mom, I'll find you a place of your own. Close, near enough that I can see you, help you, care for you. But not here, not under this roof. Because if we stay like this, I will lose everything. And I can't let that happen." The words echoed, final, undeniable. My mother wept softly, whispering, "If you send me away, I'll have no one." I stepped forward, kneeling beside her. My voice broke. "You'll still have me, but you won't have this power anymore. I won't let you." For the first time, the house was truly silent. Not the silence of fear, but the silence after a storm, when the air is heavy, broken, and waiting to heal. And in that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. But maybe, just maybe, it was the first step toward saving what was left. The house was finally quiet, not peaceful, just quiet. The kind of silence that follows a storm when everything lies broken on the ground. My mother sat in her chair, her cane leaning against the wall, her face pale. Tears traced down her cheeks, though her mouth tried to stay firm. She whispered, almost to herself, I never meant for it to go this far." Rowan stood in front of her, arms folded. Her voice shook, tired but honest. "You nearly broke us, Arabella. You nearly broke me." My mother's eyes lifted, wet and desperate. "I only wanted him to remember me, to stay my son. I thought if I let go, I'd have nothing left." I stepped closer, my chest still tight with everything unsaid. "Mom, you'll always be my mother. Nothing changes that. But I can't let you keep hurting Rowan, hurting Clara, hurting Ethan. If I stay silent, I'll lose them. And I can't let that happen." For a moment, she looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. Then she closed her eyes, nodding weakly. Rowan moved beside me, sliding her arms around my waist. Her voice was softer now, almost trembling with relief. "I needed you to say that. Levi, I've needed it for so long." I held her, my hand resting against her back. For the first time in years, I felt her lean into me instead of away. From the stairs, Clara's voice rang out, sharp but less angry than before. "So, does this mean things are finally going to change? Because I can't take another night like the last one." I looked at her, her eyes full of fire but also fear. "Yes," I said firmly. "It changes now." Ethan tugged at her sleeve, his small voice breaking through. "Dad's really going to stop it, right?" I crouched down, meeting his wide eyes. "Yes, buddy, I promise. No more silence. Not from me." The room held still. Not healed, not whole, but steady for the first time in months. And in that silence, my voice spoke inside me. I thought love meant silence. That compromise was noble. That sacrifice meant devotion. But silence only fed the fire. Real love is courage. The courage to draw a line, even against the ones you love most. Because if you don't, you lose everything. And I had almost lost it all.